So much. Hey, mamas. We are back continuing our interview with Carrie Lupoli, founder of Disruptive Nutrition and podcast host of Diet Disruptors. We're continuing this discussion on body image and how and what we think and how we approach our personal health and wellness and mindset about who we are personally and how we look at ourselves. Inadvertently programs or pre-programs our daughters to think the same way. So we're having this important discussion, empowering you, mama, how you can change that story, that narrative of health and wellness for yourself in order to change it for your daughter. Listen in. By the way, if you missed the first part of this interview, you are going to want to go back to episode 189 to listen to the first half. So that way it all makes sense. Here we go. Part 2 of my interview with Carrie Lupoli. I know you are frustrated and confused about how to even approach your girl without having any backlash or somehow causing any offense. You simply want to know more about her because for some reason you don't feel as connected to her anymore. She talks less, not like how she used to, and you just wish things were different between the two of you. You want to know whether or not things are going okay with her. She just won't share with you, and you just don't know why. You've tried everything, but it was so hard to connect with her. I want you to know that there is still hope, mama. You are not alone. I want you to stop feeling frustrated with your current situation, and I want you to start equipping yourself with solutions to help you reconnect with your teenage daughter. I'm going to help you understand the changes happening in your girl, how you can shift your role in this new season in teenhood, and how your relationship will flourish again by creating a space where your girl will be talking to you. Yes, your girl will be talking to you. Talk to Your Teen Girl framework is a 30-day journey that will get you creating open communication with your teenage daughter. She'll come to you even if she's scared, even if it's something hard to talk about. She'll come to you. I want you to head on over to talktoyourteengirl.com right now and let's get started together. Are you ready? Hey mama, welcome to Raising Her Confidently. Do you want to have open communication with your teen daughter? Do you find yourself constantly thinking about how to talk to your teen or why your girl is not opening up to you? Do you wake up with confident intentions only to feel confused and frustrated when all you get are one-word answers from your daughter again? Hey, I'm Jeannie. I too was a mom raising young teens. I too felt grieved by the loss of my sweet, talkative little girl. I wanted her to come to me about anything, even if she was scared, and listen to my advice. But I kept thinking, she won't listen to me, and I don't know how to approach her until I found tools to create open communication. In this podcast, you will find how to connect and talk to your teen and create a safe space for her to go to so that you will have that close relationship you dreamed of. Go grab your glass of Merlot and throw off those fuzzy slippers, and let's dig in together. Having this help, like really wanting all the things that we really want for our daughters about how they view their bodies. How do we have that conversation with them while we're in a work in progress?
Yeah. Well, I mean, listen to this. It's amazing how we shift our thinking from what we want for our kids and then what we want for ourselves.
Yep.
So if your daughter ever said to you, Mommy, I feel like, is it okay to love who I am? Is it okay to love myself? We would be like, oh,
Yeah.
yes, you have to love yourself.
Yeah.
But do you know how many women, when actually faced with the opportunity to start to show up for themselves, to love themselves so much that they won't continue to put themselves, to say yes to themselves, they feel like they're selfish. They feel like if I take time to work out, to learn how to fuel my body, to spend time understanding who I am and what I really want, then I'm selfish. And I think, wait a minute, you would never tell your daughter that. And if there's anything that we know, no matter where we go in the world, on any airline, in any country, with any language, you get on an airplane, the first thing they all say, and we agree on nothing in this world, right? But the very first thing they say is, no matter where, put your oxygen mask on first before you can help save anybody else. You literally cannot save another person's life if you don't put your own oxygen mask on first. And it's not just a cliche statement, it's actually fact. So why is it that as moms, we tell our girls to, yes, you should love yourself, but no, I'm not going to love myself. Yes, we have to put our oxygen mask on, but I'm not going to do it for myself. It doesn't equate. And you're not getting the results you want because you aren't doing the things that you know you need to do that you would tell your daughter to do.
Truth, and that is truth. I talk about it, about wanting really healthy relationship with your daughter, but you have to have a healthy relationship with yourself first
Yeah.
in order.
It's not possible any other way.
Right. Right. In
Mhm.
order to pour and to know what a healthy relationship is without doing that for yourself is almost impossible. Well,
Yeah.
really
It
impossible.
is impossible. Well, and we just talked to a woman the other day, Amber, and she said, I'm just so frustrated with my body. I hate it. I'm so
Mm,
mad at it. And I thought, here's where the disconnect is. We believe our bodies are mad at us. They're not doing what we want. So we just keep throwing mud at the wall, doing what, I'm going to do a weight loss shot, a hormone drop. I'm going to look for this magical thing that's going to change it all. When in all reality, your body has been trying to love on you. Your body's craving, the cravings that you have, the energy issues that you have, the hormonal imbalances, the hot flashes, the chronic fatigue, the chronic pain. Those are your body's check engine lights coming on saying, hey, do something, help me out here. And so your body keeps adjusting and changing and adapting to what how you're not responding. And then it starts to fail.
yeah.
And it starts to, I mean, this is what I mean when weight gain is a symptom. It's
Yeah.
a check engine light. And if
Yeah.
we keep going after the symptom, we miss the root cause. And so your body's actually so amazing. And instead of being frustrated with it, if you could look at it and say, I love you too much. Thank you for showing up for me, regardless of how I showed up for you.
Mm,
And now I'm going to work with you so that we can do this life together. This life container that you have is not mad at you. It's just trying to survive. It's like you keep taking left turns and the GPS keeps saying, recalculating, recalculating. She's not mad at you, but she just can't hold on that long anymore.
right. It's almost like a disconnect between the head and the heart, and they need to
Yes.
connect, right, for it to work properly, to
It's like any
align.
relationship, right? The
Right.
relationship between your body has to be around trust and love, not
Mm,
shame and anger and despair. That's never going to get us to where we say we want to be. And certainly if we don't have the right reasons for being there,
mhm.
then we're never really truly going to achieve what we want. And then, it's just such a life unlived. And it's such a shame because then your daughter actually has to go and try to figure it out because you didn't do what you needed to do to be able to help her
Yeah.
figure it out.
Oh, that's so good. It starts with
Mm.
you. It starts with you, mama. And this is not at all this talk at all. If you're like feeling shame or guilt just by even
Oh,
listening to this is
no.
not at all. It's actually an open door, another way out to embrace the freedom of all the things
Yeah.
you've really wanted for yourself, right? To let go of the things that you thought you needed, but to open and walk through a place where actual freedom lies, right? The
Yeah.
struggles from the past no longer have to be the same struggles that you walk into in the future, and this is what you're bringing to the table. And
Yeah.
that freedom also can include your daughter in a genuine, authentic space where what you're doing and what you believe you want for your daughter both align, and you're not
Yeah.
constantly contradicting yourself with your girl.
Yeah, I mean, I call it food freedom, living with food freedom. And I think that this is really about, lighting a fire under every single woman's butt to be like, listen, this isn't because you have done anything wrong. This
Right.
isn't because you just kept ignoring all the warning signs. We were never taught this. We're
Yeah.
still taught the food pyramid in school. We hear and see in every single way all the misinformation. When you look at the pharmaceutical company and the food industry and our social media, but also back in the day, we had the Special K pinch an inch.
Yeah.
Like my point is, it will default to what we believe, what we know, how we're living. We have to actively work against it. And I try to be that voice that's really showing you that we got to disrupt the way that we've been flowing down this river.
Yeah.
See, like if you think about your body like a plane, like when you walk on a plane and you turn left and you see the cockpit and you're like, well,
Yeah.
thank goodness I'm not flying that plane because that was
Yeah.
really hard. And then you turn right and you're like, I'm just going to sit down. I'm going to have a cocktail. I'm going to be
Yeah.
good. And think about your body like that plane. For too long, we've been the passenger, trusting that the food industry, the diet industry, our culture has our best interest, our healthcare, that they have our best interest at heart. They they don't, because they don't own the plane. It's your plane. You actually have to be the pilot and the passenger. And because we've never been the pilot, because we've never been trained to be, we don't know how to be. Nobody's ever taught us how to think this way. We keep landing in the wrong place and wondering how we got there.
Yeah.
But if we could be the pilot and take control and say, listen, I am going to learn how my body works, and I am going to get my thinking, because our thoughts and our beliefs, they dictate our actions. And I'm going to work on how I establish a sustainable lifestyle for myself. I'll never be able to fly that plane.
Yep.
And at the end of the day, you're going to be through turbulence. You're going to go through all sorts of curveballs of life, and you got to be able to fly that plane no matter what happens.
Right.
And once you learn how to fly your plane, then you can show your kids. But while you're flying it, while you're learning how to fly it, you can be like, I'm learning how to fly my plane right now. Come along for the ride.
Okay, so now let's get into the conversation piece of it, because it's always about like, hey, how do I even have this talk with my daughter about, and I know you mentioned it, it's like, be really honest, like have a genuine conversation about your struggles, about how you're a work in progress. Is there anything else that moms can do to have this open conversation? Because it is a touchy subject. I mean, it becomes a touchy subject because it's a touchy subject for mom, right?
Yes, that's a great way to say it. Yes.
So how do you help, or what's like a tactical step that they can do to start unpeeling? Right. First step is like, okay, I'm on this struggle bus, and have grace with me. But what's another layer of conversations that we can have with our daughter when
Yeah.
it comes to
I
this?
mean, I think one of the things is really tapping into, what do I want? Why do I want it? And
Mhm.
asking that for your daughter. Like, what do you want for your body? Why do you want it? Right? Because the fact that I ask women this question, and some of them in their 50s and 60s, and they have never thought about that before, that's powerful for me to say. What if we started asking our daughters that question right from the beginning? What do you want and why do you want it? Because that will start to unravel an entire like spool of yarn that just could continue on so many conversations from there. And if they're starting to think about their own goals and what they want and why they want it, what does health mean to you? Right?
Mhm.
Like, why do we need to be healthy?
Mhm.
And these conversations, or these questions at the dinner table, are really important. And notice how your daughter is showing up for herself, and then ask why she's doing it. So I've worked with a lot of teenagers over the
Mm.
years, and parents who will often say, like, no, I mean, my daughter watches what she eats and she's going to the gym. And I'm like, why?
Mm. Mhm.
Why? And
Mhm.
that, to me, if there's nothing else, that question is the most powerful one to be able to unpack, because you'll hear a lot, and then start the conversation. And not knowing all the answers is okay. It really is. I would also say you take advantage of teachable moments.
Mm.
And so one of the things that we do to balance our blood sugars, we eat what we call PFC3, protein, fat, and carb, every 3 hours. Believe it or not, carbs, yes, they give us energy. If you don't have a lot of energy, it's because your ATP, which is like your body's energy source, is completely depleted because you think you shouldn't have carbs.
Yep.
But a protein, fat, and carb together, those are your macros, are actually meant to be eaten together. And you should be getting hungry about every 3 hours. And every time you eat, you're eating a protein, fat, and carb. And so I actually teach that to my kids. Carbs, they give us energy,
Mhm.
and we need that to be able to fuel our bodies and our brains. Protein actually helps to give a source to our muscles. They give us all sorts of different things in our bodies that we can't get naturally, and they help to make us strong. And fat, well, fat actually helps us absorb all of our
Yep.
nutrients,
Yep.
and it fuels our brain and our organs. I mean, there's so many different things. They were actually meant to be eaten together. So then my kids and I were like, okay, you got your fat and carb, where's your protein? And it's like, just start like talking about it. But if you don't get into the why, and if you're talking about it just because it's like we got to weigh a certain amount,
Mm.
we're going to miss the point.
Yeah.
But when we can start saying, okay, what's a fat there that's going to serve your body? Or like my daughter recently, when she was in high school, she grabbed a protein shake and then she grabbed a brownie. I go, what are you doing? She goes, protein, fat, and carb. See ya. And she goes out the door. And I'm like,
I
all
love
right,
it.
love it. And they just get to make the choices. So
Yeah.
it's two part, right? One, really tapping into what do you want? Why do you want it? What does health mean to you? Getting into the why of things now,
Yes.
and then educating them on what it means to stabilize your blood sugar and how can we do that? But if you don't have the why set, then we're going to be doing it all for the wrong reasons.
Right.
So it's a twofer like that.
I
But I
love that.
also I did put together a little kind of I don't know. When I talked to Jenna Bush Hager, she was like, Carrie, can you write some of this stuff down for me? So I wrote a
Yes.
lot of stuff down around blood sugar stabilization, around what our body needs, and how we can be thinking about our language with
Mm.
some really kind of important, like avoid saying this, but maybe say this instead. So for your listeners, they can go and grab that. They can go to carrielupoli.com, grab that, because I think that's a perfect starting off point.
And I know that moms here love verbiage, the right
Mm-hmm.
verbiage, because it really, you say the wrong word and you set off your daughter just for a few hours or even
Well, we're
days.
going to do that anyway, right?
Right. I mean, we're doing it anyway, but we can help ourselves by finding the
Exactly.
right verbiage, right? And not being
Exactly.
misinterpreted.
Exactly.
So if you
Yep.
can go to her website, for sure, you'll have that resource for you when you
Mhm.
are able to have these conversations. While you were talking, I just thought about my own experiences. My daughter's a ballerina, and gosh,
Oh, yeah.
talk about like having
Uh-huh.
the culture of like you have to look a certain way, you have to look a certain way, which is honestly one of the concerns we had as parents. But what we talk about is how's your energy, and you have to eat more. It's basically eating more. You just got to eat more to fuel your body. If your energy
Exactly.
is depleted, it's because you're not eating enough. You
Well,
know?
we got to think about, right? Think about this. I always say, what thrives in a deficit? Name one thing that thrives in a deficit. Literally
Nothing.
nothing. And I think
Yeah.
that's one of the worst things diet culture has ever done. And nutritionists today are still trained. I train nutritionists, and the way I train them is completely opposite. We do not need to understand calories in versus calories out. It's actually antiquated. And the word deficit, a caloric deficit, keeps our brains thinking, I got to eat less, I got to eat less, I got to eat less.
Yeah.
It's actually eating the right amount and
Yes.
understanding what the right amount is. It's not deficit.
Yeah.
It's not excess. It's the right amount. Why can't we get that language right? It drives me bonkers. But
It really does. It helps
you,
with that shame of deprivation,
deprivation. Yeah.
right? Deprivation
Yeah.
and guilt of like, I want that, but I know
Yes.
I can't have
I'm not
it,
allowed to have it.
Yeah.
Right. I have to deprive and restrict. I know a woman that literally was pretty much immobile because she needed a double knee surgery. And her doctor said, you have to lose weight in order to have the surgery. And she said, Carrie, I'd rather be in a wheelchair for the rest of my life than go on another diet. And
Mm,
it kills me. I'm like, I, I can help you. You never have to go on another diet again. Part of your problem is that you've been dieting so much and
yes.
your body is just rebelling because it hasn't been given what it needs. So when we actually think nothing thrives in a deficit, it's like a light bulb that goes off for a
Yeah.
lot of people. That's like, yeah,
Yeah.
actually. And then when you start to think about it, you can't unsee that. You
No.
see it everywhere. And you're like, again, your brain filtering, and you're like, look at all of these messages that we hear all the time: eat less, move more. And it's so debilitating to our mindsets, to our approach, to our strategies, to our lifestyle. And it's never going to serve us. I mean, everybody's on a diet, and we know statistically at least 50% of Americans are on a diet, but yet 75% of people have insulin resistant pre-diabetic or pre-diabetes or diabetes, and 93% of people have metabolic dysfunction. Like the
Mm,
numbers don't add up. You
no.
can't be dieting and be healthy. You
Yeah.
you just can't.
I totally agree. 100%. Even in my own personal experience of dieting a lot. I
Well,
totally
it's
agree.
funny because as a bodybuilder, I've worked with so many different bodybuilders, and they'll say that was what they may have looked amazing, but it was one of the most unhealthiest times of their lives.
Oh yeah, and I share that with people who want to explore competing, and I said, well, that I felt the least healthiest during
Yep.
that time.
Yep.
When you're
Yep.
wanting to pass out on stage, that's not healthy.
But you look good.
But you
And
look great.
that's like what we really, right? Is
Yeah,
your why coming from ego or heart? Now,
right.
bodybuilders are different, right? Because I understand that there's a different kind of why with the
Yeah.
competition. But essentially, we're not doing anything different as women. We want to look a certain way for
Yes.
others, right?
Yes.
And it's not that I like, we all still put on makeup. We want our
Yeah.
hair to look nice,
Yeah.
right? Like there's a part of that that's always going to be there, but that can't be what drives me. It just
Yeah.
can't.
Yeah. And
So
that's the truth, because it becomes unhealthy and there's a skew view of what things should look like. Again, if there's a discrepancy of what you feel you want and what you want for your daughter, then there's something
about
wrong.
it. Like if a bunch of girls are like talking about me, or they said that they didn't like my hair, what do you say to your daughter? don't listen to those girls. You do you. Like you are not, they are bullies. We have all the words that we want to say, but yet we worry about what the other girls think of us.
Right.
So we can't teach what we don't live. And this is not an overnight thing by any stretch of the imagination. This is a journey of self-discovery that will last until the day you die. So don't ever think you're there, because I'm proof, right? When I was in my 30s, I was starting really to figure this stuff out. And now I'm in my 50s and still working on it. But I am, my kids are in a way better place right now than I was at their age.
Right. Because you decided to first recognize and be aware, understand, and break the cycle, choose to break the cycle for your daughters, which is authentic and genuine from that starting point of view. So Mama, is there anything else you want to add?
I could talk all day.
I know, literally.
Cut me off.
I literally can talk all day with you too, just because I love this type of thing. Like I'm also in my 50s, and I'm like at the point, and it's unfortunate that it had to take this long. And I think you can be like relate to this about loving myself and not really caring about what other people think, because I want to be healthy for myself and really set that model for my daughter. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it wasn't really about modeling for my daughter. It was really doing it for me. And the byproduct is modeling it for my daughter,
Right. I mean, there's so many byproducts of doing this the right way and zero side effects, like every single medication, every single prescription, every single thing. And our doctors are only trained to prescribe. And my number one client is doctors. And I know that. And I'm not shaming them. They simply are not given the training. Their level or their measure of success is literally how many prescriptions do they have.
Treat the symptom.
They do not know this information, and they certainly could not teach this information. So you've got to look outside of, the trusted, like we're really good at acute care, acute medical care. If you get in a car accident, I want a surgeon, I want a doctor, I want that person there by my side. But if I have, fertility issues, which I did. One of my kids is IVF, the other one's adopted. I did not even realize how aligned what I was putting in my body was. And don't you know, not one single doctor told me about that. But my grandmother had Alzheimer's. I had no real knowledge. We have no cure for Alzheimer's, but we know what prevents it. And it's all around what we're putting in our body. But our medical profession is not good at chronic disease. And they play it like whack-a-mole when they're all actually connected. You've got ear, nose, and throat doctors, you got heart doctors, you got chiropractors, you got everybody that's working on a different specialty of your body, when in all reality, if you have inflammation in your nose and sinuses, it's coming from another place. And that has to do with our health. So at the end of the day, we've got to be able to figure out how to be the pilot of our own plane. And there's so many great resources out there. There's people like you and me, but there's a lot of amazing books. There's a lot of people talking about this now, but the onus is on us to make the change. And that's where people don't necessarily want to do that.
Make the choice first and then do the work to make the change.
But when it's for the right reason, you're going to stick with it.
Exactly.
When it comes from the heart versus the ego, because at some point with the ego, you're like, screw it. I don't care what anybody thinks anymore. Whatever. I'm just going to eat all the cake and all the pie and all the things, as opposed to I'm like, screw it. I don't really care what anybody thinks about me, but I'm going to do all the things because I love myself too much to abuse it any longer.
Right. Exactly. And really wanting to break that chain of repetitiveness within the generations, that the unhealthy mindsets that we bring.
Because the question I would actually ask every single woman is, if you figure this out, who else benefits? And I know that not only did my kids benefit, but now the tens of thousands of women that I work with, I get to talk to. I mean, this is, to me, the way we actually change the state of our country, of our world, of our health. It takes you making that difference and then telling others and showing others and being that light for other people. Because right now we're talking about almost 90% of women that have disordered thinking about their bodies. So you pretty much run into a woman, you're going to be able to talk to her about this.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So
for sure.
We got to be part of the solution.
Yes. Being a part of the solution, being willing to change. And like what we were saying earlier, is just being real with you and your circumstances and where you're at. Like you may be at your ideal weight, but is what you're doing right now coming from a place of, am I doing it from my weight, or am I really doing it so that I become healthy, knowing that the byproduct is I'm at a healthy weight, you know?
Exactly.
So I
Exactly.
love this conversation. I love how, it really is talking, it's about talking to your teens about healthy body image and healthy, what their view of health is, but it really does start with you. And
It does.
these,
And sorry to
okay.
interrupt. I did a media special once, and there was a question about should we be extending our seats in airplanes to accommodate the larger side. I mean, right now we're looking at about 70% of our population that's obese, and I'm like, that's not the conversation.
Yeah.
Like that person has metabolic disease because obesity is only one symptom. I know that there's multiple other things going on there, and so what we look like on the outside, like, is not about your value. Every single person has value. In fact, you have so much value that when your body looks a certain way, it does not equal health.
Yeah.
And so body image is about loving yourself wherever you are
Yep.
enough to actually make the changes, and your body will accommodate that. But the problem is, like, the longer we keep going and living this way, the harder and harder it is to turn the ship around. So that's why I get urgent for these people. Let's
Yes.
go.
It's almost like the, gosh, is saying it's what comes out of your mouth is a result of what's in your heart, you know?
Absolutely. Which is why if we're doing all of this out of ego, then everything's tainted.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
Exactly. And it
hopefully
passes and it trickles down. Yeah.
this conversation moves a few people from ego to heart. No, the ego is going to be there all the time, but it's sort of like, like just, I hear you, but I'm not making decisions about for you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes,
Yeah.
doing a heart check every now and then, what's really driving your decisions and your motivations day to day.
Yeah.
And that reflects on how your daughter sees you on a daily basis and how she takes that information and applies it to herself.
Yeah. I mean, there's no greater responsibility than what we've got in front of us. I mean, raising an entire human being, it's a lot of responsibility. I often joke it's like a moving box. I've moved so many times. My job is to put as much stuff in their box as I can for the time that I have them. And then they're going to take that box, they're going to move, they're going to unpack that box with whatever I put in it.
Mhm.
I'm putting stuff in the box one way or the other. And am I going to be scared about what they're going to take out of their box once they're, a viable adult? My daughter's 19, but I'm like, you're not a viable adult right now because I still pay for your cell phone. But what are they going to unpack in that box? And I think that that's a really powerful metaphor to be able to remember. Am I putting in their box what I want them to unpack later?
Yes. I love that. I love that metaphor. And to keep in mind, it's not what you will it to do. It's really quite easy. Your choice of what you have for yourself is what is being packed into that box,
Absolutely. Absolutely. And James Clear says from Atomic Habits, only action creates change. We
Mm,
could want it, we could wish it, we could have a goal for it, but unless we actually do something, nothing's going to change.
love it. Love it.
Well, I mean, we could just go on forever. So you just stop me whenever you need to.
Well, okay, and I think we can close it there because I think that's a great way to close this segment about really, mama, it starts with us. It really
Yeah.
truly does. What you want for your daughter, whether it be in health, whether it be in future, whether it be in whatever she wants to be and how she loves herself, it starts with us and how we view ourselves. If anything that you got away from this. Now, Carrie, I know I have moms here that are like, oh my gosh, I want to continue this conversation. I have so much to unpack. How do
Yes.
I get in touch with Carrie? So how do we get in touch with you?
Love it. So carrielupoli.com is my site. I'm on Instagram at Carrie_Lupoli. I am on TikTok, but TikTok is like my my arch nemesis, but I'm working on it. Carrie_Lupoli. I'm on Facebook, Carrie Lupoli. So just go find me and go grab that little download that I did, because if Jenna Bush Hager tells you to write it down and she was going to read it, I had to make sure it was really good. So go grab it.
Yes, please grab that resources. Hey, we need tools, mama, and we need support as much as we can, knowing that we can't do this alone. So
Yep.
if Carrie has a resource for you to have those open conversations on topics like these, then go and grab it and use it for yourself.
Love it.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Carrie, for
Oh,
sharing your
it's-
expertise and your passion here. We can talk on and on, but we got to end it.
yeah, we got to go. We got things to do.
Yeah,
But
we got
thanks for the
things to do.
opportunity.
Yes.
Appreciate you.
Thank you. Mama, if you found this interview to be extremely helpful, has given you some clarity and even permission to be okay with the topics that we talked about and to be okay to gain that type of freedom, I want you to share this with another mama who might be struggling with the same topic, because I think this benefits as it starts with you. It could start with your friend, and it seeps down into the mindsets of our own daughters. Share this episode right now by texting it over to a friend. Remember, you have a source in me, Teen Talk Workshop, if you ever need the sources to be able to communicate in a way where your daughter is going to receive you, where she feels open, and where you can have these healthy conversations like your struggles and views of your own body and how you're struggling through it, and being very open and transparent and vulnerable with your daughter during this time. Go to talktoyourteengirl.com and find out what the Talk to Your Teen Girl framework can do for you. That's talktoyourteengirl.com. I'll see you next time. Hey friend, if this podcast inspired you or encouraged you or helped you in any way, I'd love for you to share it. You can screenshot this episode and share it in your stories on social media, or text it to a friend who can use the support. It's the best way you can thank me. I want to let other mamas know they are not alone. I'd love to stay connected with you. You can find me at raisingherconfidently.com. Until next time, live full of grace, Jeannie.